Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. I have a question here. It's anonymous. Earlier, you were telling me about sociopaths. Can you tell me more? Do you have a specific question that would probably be easier? Just in general. Okay. So it's a wide topic. So as I was mentioning earlier, the sociopaths, in my opinion, are like the next level narcissists. Like most narcissists in general are operating on like an infantile toddler operating system, the way that they are seeking to get their needs met. You know, if you imagine like a baby or a young toddler kind of like seeking around the environment to see who's going to meet their needs next, right? Like, are they going to be fed? Are they going to get water? Are they going to be hugged and cared for? Are they going to get played with? Like, how's that going to work? And it's almost like this automatic scanning of the environment. Where can they get their needs met? Where can they get their needs met? And then they hone in on someone who seems like a caretaker, right? And so then they start getting their needs met from this caretaker. And, you know, they also kind of like, you'll see the way they work is like almost, what's the word, reflexive. Like if you say something and they find that to be like, it evokes a jealousy or it evokes like the narcissistic injury, like maybe you correct them. Maybe they say something, you know, they use a word, a vocabulary word in the wrong context, or maybe English isn't their first language or whatever language you speak, and they're, you know, that language isn't their first language, and you correct them. And it's not like anything critical or mean. It's just sort of like, oh, you know, we say this instead of that. And immediately, like not even a breath later, they flip it back to something that cuts on you, something that breaks you down. They ask a question that triggers you to think about, you know, the thing that they know is most painful in your life. Like maybe they know that, you know, that you're with a narcissist, you know, like maybe it's a friend of yours, right? Let's say the narcissist is a friend of yours and you're with another narcissist, like it's your boyfriend or girlfriend. And, you know, you say something to your friend to correct your friend, and they take that like in the narcissistic injury way. As soon as you say that, they say, so how's so-and-so, meaning your partner, like the one who's abusing you and treating you horribly that you'd rather not even talk about maybe. And they just flip it immediately to like get you to think about something painful. And so it's a way of like them passing the pain back. And narcissists, I think, get more vindictive when they're feeling more threatened. The more pain, the more negative energy and emotions they have, the more they need to push that out onto someone else. And it's almost like a reflexive, like get it away kind of thing. And where's my need coming from? You know, where's my need going to be met? Where is that coming from? I think that the sociopath is the next level. That's the person who is very calculated, very meticulous, can plan out and delay gratification for long periods of time before they move in and hurt you and destroy you and devastate you by taking whatever it is they want. The narcissist generally wants to take from you your positive energy, your caretaking, your loving nature, your attention, your admiration. They want you to constantly be giving them flattery. They don't know the difference between a compliment and flattery. They just want all this like flattery attention on them. It makes them feel good. The sociopath hones in on something you have that they want, be it a material or physical possession or some quality you have, like joy, peace of mind, happiness, you know, some kind of quality. Maybe you're following your dream, you know, maybe like you're following your dream in life and they're jealous of that because they feel like they're living a caged life. And so they're going to plan and attack to destroy whatever in your life brings you happiness. And that's the way that I see the sociopath. And so, you know, that's why they're the ones who are often in very high level positions in society, like running corporations, running banks, big politicians, you know, in these sorts of positions in society, because nobody realizes they seem like really charismatic, charming, intelligent, put together, well-refined sorts of people. And only pretty much their families realize what's really going on. And sometimes not even the family realizes, you know, if you think about how long you were in an abusive situation before you realized. and how many people just never realize that that's not normal, that they're being abused. And, you know, the sociopath is, you know, so they say everyone in this narcissistic tendencies on that cluster B disorder spectrum lacks empathy. But the interesting thing is that when they did the fMRI studies, and I forget the name of the doctor who was doing these studies, I could try to look this up later. If I forget, you can remind me in the comments, and I'll try to link the article or the video that I saw this in. But when they were doing the fMRI scans of the brains of psychopaths, sociopaths who were committed in jail or something, like they already had diagnosed them, they already knew these were psychopaths and sociopaths. Now, keep in mind, the vast majority of them are probably not in jail. They're probably running the corporations, the banks, you know, the politics, governments, and whatnot. But they took these people, they put them into the MRI machine, they played imagery, which would normally evoke a human emotion, some sort of empathic emotion, sadness or happiness or some emotion. And they found that, you know, the centers, and I forget where they are, they're somewhere in the prefrontal cortex, I think, where empathy comes from, they found that wasn't lighting up like it should normally light up in a human. So they talked to the people, and then they sent them back in the MRI machines, and they said, okay, now this time, try to feel empathy for what you feel, for what you see. Try to feel. And what they found was that those parts in the brain were lighting up. So what they discovered was that empathy is a choice. These people were making the choice not to feel the empathy. They were making the choice to put the empathy aside so that they could make the decision between right and wrong and choose wrong and not let it bother their conscience. You know, they know full well right and wrong. They choose wrong. They choose that. And I think that the sociopath, being like the next level, the highest level of this, is the one who is so entitled. He believes that he should be able to do this, to hurt people and to get away with it because he's special. He deserves to get away with it. That's like the ultimate form of entitlement. And these people are very dangerous. They're very, very dangerous. I went into business with one of them. I didn't realize, I knew I didn't like this guy from the beginning. There was something about him I didn't like. I didn't realize the whole full extent of things until he just completely betrayed me after he had used me for 6 months, you know, in this business, and then completely betrayed me. And I was just like shocked that this had even happened. But when I looked back, you know, and I didn't want to believe, and a woman who was reading tarot cards for me said, oh no, this person knew all along. This was his plan all along. He never planned to pay you. He planned, you know, just to use you and abuse you. And I was like, no, I didn't want to believe it. But this is the reality with sociopaths, is that, you know, you see them and you wouldn't imagine that they have, you know, such horrible intentions inside. And I really think it's just because they know the difference between right and wrong. They choose wrong. They turn off the empathy centers, and they don't care. And they feel entitled to get away with it. And, you know, as I mentioned earlier as well, the sociopaths being the most sadistic of all of them, like they're the ones that revel and enjoy your suffering. Like, I think to the narcissist, the way I understand it is like, it's almost like they don't care that you suffer. All they care about is meeting their own needs. And that's how they get by, and that's how they survive. And they don't care who they step on and who they hurt and who they suck dry in the process. I don't know that they get like serious sadistic pleasure. I think they get some pleasure, especially when it comes to jealousy, when you have something that they want, not just in terms of feeding, right? Because then there's the feeding aspect, and then there's the jealousy aspect. And I think when they attack you on the jealousy thing, when they do something to you to hurt you, to make them feel less jealous, that I think is sadistic. I think they like to see that pleasure. But I think the sociopath is at a whole other level of sadism. Like, that's their MO. Like, they feed off of other people's suffering. They want to see other people suffer. They want to see other people in pain. They want to see other people fall for it because it feeds them, it fills them, it makes them happy. They get pleasure out of that. Schadenfreude, that German word, getting pleasure out of other people's suffering. Do you have any other questions about sociopaths in general, or maybe an experience that you had that you're trying to understand? Thanks very much. It was Dr. Robert Hare with the brain scan. Thank you. Thank you for filling me in. Dr. Robert Hare, Hare. He was the one who did the fMRI scans. That's awesome. That's awesome. What other questions do you guys have? In the prisons, right? Yeah, he did them with the prisoners. What other questions do you guys have? Go ahead, don't be shy. You can write it privately if you don't want other people to know that it's you asking the question. I'm not going to announce your name or anything. You can send the question privately and it'll be announced anonymously. Okay. How do I get past running into my ex-narc with the girlfriend he was with and triangulated me with? Okay, so you still live in the same area. Do you live in a small town? Or are you talking about like running into him in like the same places that you would normally hang out, and now he might be hanging out, like the gym or your favorite pizza place or something? And this is a question that a lot of people are afraid of, and it's like it causes anxiety, right? When you think about running into this person, like when you still live in the same place. She says, he rules my city, a lot of flying monkeys. Okay. Yeah, that's the situation that we all dread afterward, right? Is like, the person employs all these flying monkeys and that smear campaign starts around town or city. And I mean, even in New York City, you can still run into somebody that, just because like you tend to stay in certain circles in certain areas, and just the synchronicity of it all, right? So hoping not to run into them. I would try not to think about them too much, because the more you think about people, you're connecting like the filaments of energetic connection, these light filaments that are connecting you to other people, especially people that you've had very close relationship with, and even more especially people that you've had a sexual relationship with. So the more you think about him, the more he's going to pop up on the radar. And the less you think about him, the less connection you're creating. So number one is always try to redirect your focus away from that, away from him, away from the flying monkeys, away from the smear campaign, away from all that. Number two is, to not try to defend yourself. You could end up wasting a lot of energy and time trying to talk to these people, trying to defend yourself, trying to tell them what happened and explain to them who this person is. And it's usually just like a huge waste of time and energy. If a person is your friend, if a person wants to see the truth, even if they're not your friend and they're more the friend of the narc, if they want to see the truth, they're going to see the truth. Nothing you say is really going to help them. If they're a friend of that person, they're probably going to side with that person anyways, blindly. They don't care. Or even if they do know, maybe they're so dependent on this person for something that they just keep, being their accomplice, which is often the case, because a narcissist, is very careful to maintain this harem of people and all these flying monkeys based on, some need that they have that he's fulfilling for them. So then they're kind of dependent on him, and it might be for attention or affection, or it might be finances or whatever. Maybe he just has status in the community, so they want to hang out with him so they can be associated with status or whatever. Those people are not worth your time. If they want to just say stuff or whatever, you just keep on keeping on. Don't even stop. Don't even give them the light of day. Just keep on going, and don't get wrapped up in that. It sucks to have to change your life afterwards, but in reality, like when it comes down to like, okay, that if you go to this place at this time, you're likely going to run into him, then you want to create new routines. Maybe he's creating new routines as well, but if he's got this new person that he was already triangulating you with, then quite likely he's feeling pretty smug about that, and so is that new person, and they would probably love to see you and rub it in your face. So unfortunately, at least for a while, you might want to kind of change some of your habits so that you're not going to that restaurant or that bar where he's going to be on a certain day. Or, maybe you belong to a gym and there's multiple locations in your area, and that he always goes to that one, and you can go a few miles out of your way to go to that one instead. I would go to that one instead, just to not have to deal with it, to not have to run into him. Somebody asked me this about, the gym before. Like, there was just one gym, there was one option. It was important to her to keep up, her exercise and her workouts and stuff. And she was not going to let him, destroy that for her. So I told her, all right, so she's like, well, what happens if I see him? I'm like, well, if he tries to talk to you, you're wearing your headphones and you're so into your music, you're so into what you're doing that you don't have the time of day for him. And you just keep on going. You don't make any eye contact. Don't scan the area for him. Keep your eyes down, keep focused on the machine, focused on what you're doing. Don't pay attention. If this person is like really, really desperately trying to get your attention and they like come up to you, all you got to do is like keep your headphones in, keep moving, don't stop. But, say they come up to you and they're trying to get attention. It's like, oh, hey, how's it going? Yeah. Just really, I'm busy right now. I got to go, really focus on my workout, whatever. Just like a really short little thing. Got to go. Put your headphones right back in. These headphones say to somebody else, it's like a stop sign. It says like, don't talk to me. Right. And so if you feel safer hiding behind a shield too, like headphones, and even if you're like walking around the neighborhood, like if he lives in your neighborhood or something and, you're afraid to run into them, put on your headphones, just be doing your thing. In general, I would just be so into what you're doing, so focused on what you're doing that you just don't have any time for that. Like you're walking through the city and suddenly they're walking past you, pretend like you didn't even see them. Just keep on going, and if you have the opportunity, if you see them far enough away and they haven't seen it yet, just jump off a side street, take the long way around, whatever. If you have to walk past these people, just don't even look at them. Don't even give them the time of day. Just be so focused on you. If you're standing still, just be really absorbed in your cell phone or a book or something. And if they should corner you and start talking to you, watch your body language. Do not point your body and your feet toward them. Always want to point your feet away because your feet are the direction that you're going. So if you steer your feet in this direction and he's over here, your feet are moving in this direction. It's already creating this subconscious feeling that you're not engaging with him. You are directing yourself this way. And so just keep everything moving away. Like I said, keep moving as much as possible. If the person should corner you, immediately turn your body language away and start moving in another direction and just be so busy and focused on you that you don't have time for that, and not so busy in the way that you're acting smug, like you're so interesting kind of thing. Because remember the whole gray rock. Going gray rock is about being really boring, uninteresting, unopinionated. So, you don't want to be like this shining star that he's like, oh, I got to get some of that. What can I do? What can we do? And then he starts creating some kind of drama as well. I would be really uninteresting, just totally focused. Like it's the most boring, mundane thing, but you're totally focused in that and what you're doing, and you're running late. And walk like you're running late, not like dilly-dallying, like walk like you have a purpose. And don't make eye contact, just keep, and if for some reason he should like really want to make a fool of himself in public and like really trying to get your attention, just set your boundary really clear. Be like, I don't want to talk to you. I need to go, and walk away. And I don't think that he's going to try to push that even further. I mean, if he did, then he's making himself look like a fool in public. And for the narcissist, one of the most important things to them is their public perception, like how people see them. They always want to look good to other people and stuff like that. So they don't really want to make a fool of themselves in public. And then the other thing too is you just got to put your ego and your pride aside, because the pride and the ego is going to want to be right, is going to want to be better than them, is going to want to react to their smugness with more smugness. Like, my life is so much better now without you and all that. Don't go there. Just don't even do that. Just save that stuff for yourself. Just be really boring, really busy, and in a big hurry to keep on going. Let's see here. My narc also stalks. Is this his fear because he hoovered? And he is afraid I will tell her, and he is trying to get me to move. He doesn't stop the stalking or calls. By stalking, what do you mean? Is he coming to your place of residence or your work? Or do you mean like cyber stalking? Tell me what you mean by stalking, just so I have an idea here. it also sounds like the new target hasn't had any contact with you yet. She doesn't exactly know. She's probably just hearing the way he's spinning the story. So if he's afraid that you're going to tell her, he's probably not going to approach you with her. He would probably be afraid of that situation. He would probably be afraid of you having the opportunity to talk to her. But tell me what you mean about stalking. How is he stalking you? He comes to your house and parks in the driveway. Wow. Yeah, that's not okay. What is he doing then? Does he sit in your driveway and is he like trying to call you from unknown numbers, or like does he see like ringing the bell in your house or something, or does he just sit there and like stare at your house? All of this is sounding really creepy. I don't know what country you live in, but here in USA, we have something called a protection order. And it varies state by state. They're slightly different, but if you notice him in your driveway, get your cell phone, take a video, make sure you get the license plate, make sure you get a picture of his face in the car. Take 2 or 3 of those videos, take them with you to go file a protection order. You have proof in those videos that he's stalking you. Those videos will tell the people the time and the date that he was there. You got his license plate, you got his face. Like, he pretty much can't weasel his way out of that. And then he's going to have to leave you alone. That's not okay. When someone comes and parks in your driveway, that's not okay at all. That's like super creepy. And you're probably going to have to set a bigger boundary there. So is he like actively getting your attention, or is he just like creep staring at your house when he comes in your driveway like that? He sits and stares at your house, stops and talks to my neighbors. Last Saturday, he came by and I was in the garage, and he stopped his Harley and called out to me. You were in the garage. You were in the garage with the door open, probably, and he called out. He's talking to your neighbors. This is super creepy. Staring at your house, like, not okay. I would immediately start taking video of that, pictures, video, whatever. Get evidence, get 2 or 3, the next 2 or 3 times that he comes, get that evidence, and then take that to the local authorities and tell them that you need some sort of protection order. There must be something like this wherever you live, and tell them that this person is stalking you, and it's really freaking you out. He obviously knows where you live. You're not going to move. At least, maybe you don't want to move, and it's not fair that this person is showing up. I mean, that's threatening to sit in someone's driveway and just staring at the house. It's very threatening. And so I would definitely try to get a protection order so you don't have to deal with that. The fact that he's talking to your neighbors too, that's just not okay. Did he live there at some point with you, or did he just visit you at this location? He left her for me and went back. Um, okay. Was he physically living at your place? Is that why he feels this confidence to talk? Yes. Okay. That's why he feels the confidence to talk to your neighbors. I don't know how well you know your neighbors and all, but this is your place, right? This isn't his group of people. So if I were you, I would talk to your neighbors and tell them like a very abbreviated version of the story, which is that you were dating this guy and he was abusive, psychologically, or however you want to explain that to them. And he's stalking you and he's coming around, and you're going to file, a protection order so that he stops coming around. But please don't talk to him. Please don't give him any information about me. Please don't answer any questions. Please just don't engage with him. This is a dangerous person. And I would let people know, just because other people don't need to get swept up in that. And also because this is your place. This is where you live, and you deserve to feel comfortable where you live, and not like he's stirring the pot here with your neighbors and trying to feed them bullshit about you and make you feel uncomfortable. That's absolutely not okay. If I were you, I would be proactive about that with your neighbors and tell them a small part of the story, which is he's no longer with you. You don't like the fact that he comes by and you keep trying to say this, and you're going to have to take, another measure to make sure that he stops stalking you and to please not have any contact with him. You have explained to your neighbors and you have evidence, but I live alone and he has threatened to burn my house down. You definitely need to go to the authorities and get a protection order. Are you aware of something like that where you live, in whatever state or country? Is it possible to get some sort of protection order? You live in Florida. Oh, good. Okay. I wouldn't waste any time. I would go like tomorrow morning, before work or something. I would absolutely go tomorrow. Take the evidence that you already have. You also have some witnesses, which are your neighbors, but normally you don't even need all that. And tell them what's happening and try to present the facts. Okay. When you're dealing with the authorities, they don't care about all the emotional stuff. And when you start talking about all the emotional stuff, you're going to lose their attention span. All they care about is the facts. So what I would do tonight is write out the facts. Okay. The facts about the abuse, anything relevant about the facts about how many times, he stopped by at Monday at 5:27 p.m. on Wednesday at, 7:43 p.m. He stayed for 10 minutes staring at my house. These are facts. Okay, I would write down a whole list of facts and I would walk in with this list. That way, when you get there and you got to fill out the paperwork and people are questioning you, you don't start, you forget what you were going to say, you forget the important stuff, you start getting emotional because it's an emotional thing, right? So I would write down all the facts. Bullet point it for yourself, gather your evidence, and take that with you to your local police precinct or wherever it is, in your municipality that you file this restraining order. And, and let them know too that you have neighbors, who have overheard him, who have, engaged in conversations with him when he was trying to get a hold of you, and tell them that you need to file this right away. I wouldn't waste any time. If he's making threats like this, like, first of all, the fact that he's sitting in your driveway and staring at your house is so creepy. That's not okay. That's someone who is plotting something, somebody who's just anger and they're trying to get a hold of you. They're gonna be beating down your door and be talking to you, trying to get a hold of you and stuff. When someone is sitting in their car and staring, that to me is even more sinister, much more sinister. I would definitely call and get some help with that right away. I would not waste any more time. Threatening to burn down your house, I would tell them in the facts, on X date, or maybe you have a text message that says that or something and you have a screenshot, whatever you have, I would tell them everything that he has said, everything he's done, all the threats that he's made. And this is why you're afraid for your life. The man has threatened your life. He's threatened to burn down your house. You could be in your house, and that definitely has to be enough to get a protection order. I would not waste any time on that, sweetheart. I would get that right away, like tomorrow. Tonight, write down the facts, go in there tomorrow with your facts and evidence and get that done. Get that done. And then if he should run into you in public, once you have that protection order, I don't know exactly what the details are of that. It's been a really long time since I was in that world trying to file a protection order against someone, but I know there's like a certain amount, like a distance that, he shows up at your workplace. Again, not okay. Not okay at all, and maybe your workplace has some cameras that have him on footage, or at least, witnesses who have seen him shown up or something. All of this is evidence to get your protection order. I would not waste any time on that. Once you get that protection order, it doesn't matter where you go in town. Like, there's a certain amount of distance that he cannot go near. You can't go that, distance from your house. He can't go that distance from your workplace. If he should run into you in public, there's some kind of rule in that protection order that says he has to leave, not you, him. He has to leave, and that will protect you. I am afraid of the retaliation. He scares me. Yeah, he sounds like a scary person, like somebody who sits in a driveway and stares at your house. That's not okay. That sounds kind of like a psychopath, a sociopath, and I would tell the police, whomever you're filing this protection order with, that you're afraid of retaliation, and what are their suggestions? What are their suggestions if he should run into in public, if he should come to your house. I would ask them these questions. I would take notes too while you're there, because, because it's so emotional, right? And so many times when we get triggered into the fear of it all, we can't really think straight. Like the thinking brain's not working. We're caught in the brain fog and the confusion. So write it down, whatever the officer says. If you see him in public, this is what you do. If he should come to your house and, disregard the protection order, this is what you do. You call 911 or however that works. Write it down, and then keep this at home. Keep it in your purse with you when you go out. Maybe write like a note in your phone, and then, okay, if you run into him, what's going to happen? You're going to go into that amygdala hijack, right? The amygdala is going to hijack your brain. You're going to be on anxiety, on fear, on survival mode. So you're not going to be thinking clear. So you've already set it up, okay, wait, I got something in my phone. My phone, okay, right. It says, this is what I do. Right. And that's there. And so you do that. Like you call 911, you do what you need to do to be safe from this person. And I would not wait on that. I would do that like now, like start making that list tonight, start getting help tomorrow. And, do you own your house? Are you renting, or are you owning? How attached are you to where you live? I'm afraid that the narc is so convincing that he will turn it around on me. They do that. You own your house. Okay, that's a little more complicated. It's your house though, and it's not fair for you to have to feel threatened in your own house, and where you live. And that's just not okay. And, if you have enough evidence of this, then you definitely have enough evidence to get that protection order. And, that protection order doesn't mean that he's not going to retaliate, but it means that he should be afraid to do so. Like he must have something to lose, right? Is this person, does he have like a job that matters to him, or any kind of like status in the community or reputation that's important to him? Like what's the most important thing to him that he doesn't want to lose? And if he has something that he doesn't want to lose, and he's probably not going to disregard this. Yes, she has money. He doesn't. So you're saying like he doesn't want to lose her, maybe. He doesn't want her to know. So, if he gets arrested for breaking this protection order, then she's going to find out, because he's going to disappear for, 24 to 48 hours, and she's not going to get this constant bombardment of texting from him, or he's not going to come home if he's living with her, and she's going to know something's up, and he's going to need someone to bail him out of jail, so he has something that matters to him, which means hopefully he's not going to go ahead and, and break the law and disregard the protection order. Hopefully that protection order is enough to just keep him away. Hopefully that sends a clear enough message to him that you are not going to allow for this. These are your boundaries. He has not listened to your boundaries. He has been violating over and over and over again your boundaries after all the times that you have set and enforced them. He has disregarded them. This is the step you had to take. He put you into this position, and now he's going to have to be regulated by this protection order to not come anywhere near you. He is a master at playing the victim. Yeah, most of them are. They love to play the victim. But, you have proof, right? You have some evidence, you said. So if you have this evidence, you take that in, they're probably not going to question that. I don't even think he'll have the opportunity to question that, especially if you have hard evidence, like, what's he going to say when, there's all these photos of his license plate and his car sitting in your driveway, and there he is. He was there. He's not invited. He's not allowed to be there. You told him not to come. So, there's still, some facts here that he can't twist that hard. Like the fact that he was there, he's not invited there, he has no business being there. That should be enough to get him to go away, to get him, to understand that these are the limits. And because he hasn't respected these limits, now you have to get the protection order. And that's just the logical next step. And the thing is, honey, he wants you to be afraid. He wants you to fear retaliation. He wants you to fear that he's going to twist this around and spin it so that no one will believe you. And you got to put all that aside. Okay. Those are his belief systems. That's the way he's trying to get you to see reality. He's trying to instill that fear and that doubt in you. And that doubt is really like, that's the most dangerous thing that these people have, is that doubt. They plant these seeds in your mind. And then if you feed those seeds and they sprout and they just become like weeds in the garden of your mind. And now you have no self-esteem, no self-trust. You know, you're afraid to do whatever you need to do. You are totally in the right here to file that protection order. You are totally in the right. You absolutely deserve to do that. You deserve to have your space and not feel violated by him. So, you know, recognize that he's planting these fears in your head. He's planting this fear that he's going to come in there and, you know, and try to convince everybody that he's the victim. But, you know, at this point you have eyewitnesses, you have people at work, at your workplace, you have neighbors, and you have evidence, you know, and if you don't have those photos, make sure you get the photos and stuff so that it's super clear. Yes, I've tried to pacify him by being nice in my texts. Like, it is over and I need to move on, etc. Will that work against me? When he doesn't stop, I demand he stop via text and block him, then he stalks. I would no longer have any more contact with him, like zero more contact. Don't be nice. Don't like be polite and keep telling him you need to move on. No, none of that. I would go no contact. I would go absolutely no contact. That will work against you. You know, what you're saying is that he's stalking you after you cut him off. You know, make it super clear. If you want, one more time, if you stalk me, I'm done. There's no more contact. If you come to my house, if you come to my workplace, if you come anywhere near me, I'm going to the police. I would make it super clear if you absolutely feel like you haven't made your boundary clear enough. But the fact that he keeps doing this and you're telling him not to makes me feel like you have been clear. So if you feel like you've been clear about that boundary, then I wouldn't even give him that explanation. I would just cut off everything. Do not allow him to contact you, and absolutely take photos if he shows up in your driveway again, or if you see him out there with your neighbors, take photos, and absolutely, like, tonight, write that list of all the facts, not the emotions, not how you felt about it, but the facts, the fact that he threatened your life, the fact that he threatened to burn down your house, the fact that he keeps showing up when you tell him to stop, that you're done, that you don't want anymore. Those are facts, and get that restraining order tomorrow. Like, don't waste any more time. Oh, you told him you filed a police report and he still stalks. Yeah, this man has no respect for boundaries. You owe him nothing more. You owe him no more words. At this point, I would absolutely have no more contact with him. You called the police 3 times. You were afraid to file the restraining order, I'm guessing, or do you mean like a report in general? The fact that you called the police several times too has already set, you know, a precedent. Is that the word I'm looking for? It's already set like prior evidence that something's going on. And, you know, as corrupt as, you know, some police precincts can be and all, I think that some of them generally recognize this sort of behavior as domestic abuse. You know, somebody calls and they're like, okay, never mind. And they call again and then they, you know, chicken out. I think that they recognize those signs as someone who's being abused, who's afraid, you know, to stand up and say, I'm being abused. I need some help. I don't know what to do. And this man, obviously, 1, 0 respect for your boundaries, 0. If he has no respect for those boundaries, he's going to go above and beyond. I would absolutely file that restraining order, like absolutely right away, and follow through this time. Like, stop listening to your fears, you know, because those are fears that he planted in your mind. Come back to you and recognize that you did nothing wrong. This man is totally in the wrong. You have the right to peace of mind. You have the right to your property. You have the right to go to work and not have him show up at your workplace. And it's not okay. It's not, nothing about that is okay. And you deserve to feel safe. And that protection order is one more step. It doesn't guarantee your safety, but it guarantees his trouble with the law should he decide to go ahead and break those boundaries again, you know, and you need to be ready to follow through on that. You know, you need to be sure enough of yourself. Like, You know this man is abusive. You know this man is dangerous. You know this man, still is coming. He keeps coming. He won't stop. So you have to go to that next level, and not feel bad about that, and not feel guilty about that, because there's no guilt necessary here. Like, no guilt in doing this, and just, and just be aware of your surroundings, be vigilant, make sure your doors, your windows are locked, don't give him any opportunity, and get that police report. The restraining order filed tomorrow. Please don't waste any more time. I'm really sorry that you're going through that. I can only imagine you must be terrified, and right now, like, you're living in this survival fear state, and that's not quality of life. And you don't deserve that. You deserve happiness and peace of mind. And that paper will help you, to some degree, to at least have legal repercussions set in place should he decide to break that law. You will do it. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. Please do that. Please let me know tomorrow. Send me a message on Facebook or an email. Tell me that you followed through. I'm going to give you a big pat in the back. I'm going to encourage you. Okay. So I want to know that everything's all right. You deserve peace of mind. You deserve happiness. Any other questions? Anyone else have any questions tonight? Maybe someone else is typing. I just want to say one more thing too. I would also let your neighbors know that you went ahead and filed that restraining order. Just give them the heads up that you did that, in case, he calculates the distance from your house, which is a safe distance, which is not breaking the law, and he decides to talk to neighbors. Let them know. That way they know what they're dealing with. And tell them too, if you see his car, maybe you don't know, maybe you're sleeping or something, tell your neighbors like that you're afraid. And if they should see his car, to call the police immediately, just so that that somebody else has your back. I was widowed and lost my job 10 weeks after my husband died. I then met the narc. Was I just vulnerable? I tend to be more of a caregiver type. Yeah, you were very vulnerable. Very vulnerable. And sometimes, usually, the people who are drawn to narcissists, sociopaths, psychopaths, usually grew up in that dynamic where one or both of the parents was a narcissist or a psychopath or a sociopath or borderline or histrionic. Usually they got used to that growing up. Sometimes people didn't go through that growing up, and they went through some kind of devastating loss, a divorce, the death of someone, some kind of major devastating sense of loss. And they're feeling just incredible grief. They're feeling very lonely. They're feeling very vulnerable and raw. And also, that is a time when sometimes narcissists, or typically psychopaths and sociopaths, will move in on that person. It tends to be more psychopaths and sociopaths moving in on victims of loss, because they see that. It's like they smell it, like a shark smells blood, and they move in on that, and they know. And you might be a caregiver type too, which is like the icing on the cake, because some of them want that. Typically more the narcissists want the caregiving, though sometimes psychopaths want that too. But you were definitely vulnerable. That was not your fault. It was not your fault at all. He probably honed in on that vulnerability, told you everything that you wanted to hear, did everything that you needed someone to do for you, and then, got you to transfer your sense of trust and approval in him. And that's how he took advantage of you. So I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry that you went through all of that. I know that must have been really difficult. And, I would recommend that you take some serious time to yourself now. And I don't mean isolate yourself, like definitely hang out with like really good friends and like family that truly loves and supports you and allows you to speak your truth, and, hang out with really good, loving, trustworthy people. That's excellent. Also spend some time alone so that, you can work on healing this. Like I would not go on a date for at least 6 months, like at least, maybe longer. And I know that sounds kind of like a bummer, you know, because we all like to feel company, you know, and that's why I would recommend, when you want company, to focus on your support network, on your loving, trustworthy friends and family, and hang out with them and be in a healthy environment and feel this healthy sense of caring, you know. And if you have a dog, you know, snuggle with your dog. And if you don't have a dog, maybe you want to get a dog, because a dog is like the best alarm system too. They'll always tell you that there's a problem. You know, I used to have like night fear from like the PTSD, and night was when I was most afraid and most hypervigilant, and any little sound that I heard, it was like my body went like paralyzed. It was almost like I couldn't even breathe. I was so terrified. And ever since I've had my dog, you know, I sleep really well. And if I hear anything in the middle of the night and I look over at my dog, if she's snoring and out cold, I'm like, it's nothing, you know. And every now and then she'll jump up and she'll, you know, start growling at something, you know, and then I know like something's going on, right? But dog is an excellent alarm system. It's also an unbelievable sense of unconditional love and loyalty and faithfulness. And you can snuggle with that animal all you want, and they're not going to cheat on you, and they're not going to lie to you, and they're not going to suck you dry of your resources. You just feed them and walk them and give them love, and they're amazing companions. My dog has just been such a godsend. I will never not have a dog from now on. I feel incredibly blessed to have her in my life, and I will always have at least one dog in my life, because I feel like my quality of life is so much higher having her. I got a message saying, absolutely, for this person I know just got a dog too. He drove all my friends except one away. They never liked him and warned me, but didn't see it. Yeah, it's like one of the rules of abuse is to isolate the victim, to isolate them physically, and to isolate them perceptually, like to isolate them from the perceptions of other people. Because if your friends or anybody who loves and cares for you gets wind of what's going on, usually they're going to smell that and they're going to be like, something's not right. Something's not right. I don't really like this guy. I don't know what it is. I don't get a good feeling. And when you're in it, you're like, no, everything's good. He's amazing. You don't want to hear it, right? But your friends will usually know. The ones who really love you, you know, your close family members too, they'll get wind of that. They'll be like, no, something's not right about this guy. And when you're in it, you want to defend this person. You want to make excuses for this person. And then sometimes out of shame, out of embarrassment, because you know, if you talk to your friends and family about the relationship, about this person, you know what they're going to say. And so then you voluntarily isolate yourself, you know, and you voluntarily don't talk about him, or you don't hang out with people who you know are going to be real with you. I'm going to be like, so what's going on in that relationship? You know, like what's going on? So you're going to avoid that. I know, I've been there too. So true. I did that. Yeah, we all do. Right. And that the abusers know that, like even if it's unconsciously, they know they have to separate you from the perceptions of other people, because other healthy people are going to recognize something's not right here. And as soon as they know you have someone in your life who's important to you, they're going to work hard to drive a wedge between that. They will do that like 100% of the time. It's even happened with my dog. And that's another way that I tell too. Like if somebody doesn't like my dog and they're trying to get me to sympathize with them about why I shouldn't like my dog, or why my dog is bad, or why my dog should be outside or something like that, now I recognize like that's a clue, you know. And how does my dog react around that person? Like is she really like happy and wants to sit in their lap, or is she going crazy around them? Like one of my exes, you know, she would like bite up his forearms. Like he was playing with her. I'd turn my back in the kitchen and I'd turn around and his arms were like bloody and black and blue. Like she doesn't do that to anybody. She was trying to tell me, but I didn't want to hear it, you know? So, oh, you said you have a dog, Bogart. Oh, that's awesome. That's really awesome. Your late husband bought him for you. Good. So you have a dog. You're not alone. You have someone to snuggle with. You have a safe creature to snuggle with, you know, who's not going to lie to you, who's not going to cheat on you, who's not going to stalk you, who's not going to hurt you. That dog is going to love you like so much. So, and also going to let you know, if there's like sounds or something's not right in your house, you know, you at least have this like early warning system there in your dog. And it's a great companion to have. And in terms of the friends that he drove away from you, you know, Bogart is your best friend. Yeah, I know what that is. I know. And the friends, you know, that he did try to drive away from you, you know, check in on that, you know, make sure that they're not toxic people too. Cause sometimes if you have another toxic person in your life, like another narcissist, and then this narcissist comes in and wants all your time and attention, and they get wind of this other narcissist, they will start driving you away from that person. Like they will make you hate that person until you get them out of your life, because they want 100% of your attention. Sometimes it doesn't mean that they're necessarily toxic people. They could just be really wonderful people who care about you, who are telling you they don't like this guy, and this guy realizes that they don't like him, and he's going to plant the same ideas in your mind, you know, to cut those people out. But I would do an inventory, a really honest inventory. Are those healthy friends? If those are healthy friends to have, they're not toxic people, I would try to reconnect with them now. You know, let them know a little bit about what happened. You know, like, I got into this abusive relationship. I got out of the relationship. I ended up having to file a protection order because this guy was just really dangerous. You know, I recognize now that you saw it, and I regret that I couldn't see it, but this is why I couldn't see it. Like, these are the patterns of abuse. Like, it hijacks the brain of really intelligent people. It's not about intelligence. It's about the primal brain, you know, that Stockholm syndrome, the trauma bond. And tell them a little bit about, you know, what you've been learning, and, you know, and how they were right, that you recognize they were right. And then hopefully that will open the door again to those friendships. A lot of them were needy. I was the caregiver, always helping. Okay, so take a look at that. Really ask yourself, are those toxic people, or were those healthy friends? You know, and how you can tell the difference is, you know, so it sounds like these are needy people. So, you know, they're always calling in you when they needed help. They probably weren't really calling much to, you know, to talk about you, unless they were extracting information, you know, to use against you. Needy friends, like the fair weather friend, you know, who's only there when things are good, or only there when they need help, but they're never there when you need help, kind of thing. Those aren't good friends to have around. You know, you might very cautiously open a line of communication with them now, and do some tests. You know, like when you set a boundary, when you say, hey, I can't talk to you right now, I got to do this thing, right? Does the person respect that boundary? Or did they keep on texting you? Did they keep on calling you? Or if you're like, hey, yeah, I can talk, but I only have 10 minutes because I really have to do this, but I have 10 minutes for you, so we can talk now. And are they abusing that kind of thing? Or, you know, or if you say like, I want to go do this, you know, I don't have time to do that, and they're trying to convince you that that's a bad idea, that you should do their thing instead, or help them instead, you know, those aren't good friends. You know, you can tell by how they respect your boundaries. And do you sense jealousy? Because if you sense that, you know, anything good that you've got going for you, that they're jealous of, you know, those are not good people to have around. You don't want that kind of friend in your life. It's better to have no friends than to have those people around you, because when you have no friends, then you don't have toxicity bleeding through your life, and you can meet new friends, and you'll have good energy and lots of time to meet new people, to work on yourself, to do things you love. If you have toxic people in your friend circle, you know, I always tell people, like, who are the 5 people that are closest to you? And they don't necessarily live near you, because nowadays, you know, sometimes we move around or whatever, and our friends are living all over, and our friendships are on the phone, or maybe we're on Skype or whatever, you know, but the 5 people that you spend the most time and energy with, are these healthy people? Do you want to be more like these people? Do you admire things in these people? You know, do you learn things? Are you uplifted by these people? Do you feel supported and loved and trust with these people? You know, those are healthy people to have. Are they draining? Like, when you hang out with them, like, do you suddenly get a case of narcolepsy where you're like, oh my God, I can't even keep your eyes open. You're like trying to like pay attention, but like you can't even stay awake because they're just so draining, you know? And then maybe you go home and you just feel like flattened, like you have no energy, like you can't even think, you can't even read a book because you can't even focus on the book, because all you're thinking about is just how crappy you feel because you just spent time with that person. And it could just be a phone call. maybe you were feeling upbeat, and then you talk to this person an hour later, you're like, man, I don't feel so good, and then maybe it takes you hours later to get back to the emotional state you were in before the phone call came. That's a definite sign that's a toxic person in your life. The N would say often, I was naive. Do they reveal themselves what they are sometimes? Sometimes they'll flat out tell you. I dated a psychopath once who told me on like the second or third time I saw him that people reminded him of whatever that main character was in American Psycho. And I was like, oh, really? Huh? Like how? Like completely naive. He was telling me flat out that he was a psycho. Another one that I met said, my mom told me that I should beware of characteristics of narcissism because of my dad. Do you think I'm a narcissist? I'm like, no, you're so appreciative and grateful, clueless. Like, again, he was telling me, and at the very end, that same person was the one who told me, like, if I should die or disappear, his life would go on like I didn't even exist. Like maybe it would take him 3 days to get back to, a different routine, but then it would be like I never existed. He was telling me flat out that he didn't give a shit about me. Like he has no empathy, severe attachment disorder, because he doesn't get attached to people. I love you, but I don't get attached to people like you do. Like, I should have recognized wasn't a healthy thing. Sometimes they do tell you. Sometimes they don't tell you directly. They don't usually say, I'm a psychopath. They usually go a roundabout way. Well, people tell me this, right? Or people say that, but, and by that point, they've usually worked you up to the point where you want to defend them and be like, no, that's not you. But if someone says that to you, be aware. Be cautious. Sometimes they do tell you who they are. Sometimes, they do reveal through words, but they always reveal themselves through actions. It's just that sometimes we don't want to look at those actions. Sometimes we would rather listen to the beautiful things that they were filling our head with earlier on that aren't true. They're total lies, and they're just everything that they were feeding us, everything we wanted to hear, everything they knew we wanted to hear. And we weren't really looking at the actions, but people will always paint themselves. If you just allow them to paint themselves, they will always do that. And, the problem is when we want to superimpose, what we want to believe about them, or the potential that we see in them, which they don't want to live. Like they're doing something else. They will always tell you with their actions. Sometimes they will tell you in a roundabout way with their words who they are. And you don't need to feel shame about, being naive, because we were all there, all of us were there. Because why? You are a good person. You are a genuine, loving, kind person. Why would you want to believe that someone would behave like that? Like you can't even conceive, you couldn't conceive that someone would be so malicious. Neither could any of us, right? Because we project upon the world what we are, and we assume that people are inherently good, and that is not the case. That's something that all of us have learned or will learn at some point, that is not the case with all people. Not all people are good. Not all people are good-natured. And it's unfortunate that sometimes they got there because horrible things happened to them. But you know what? As an adult, it's not an excuse anymore. Like they choose to be that way. They choose to do wrong. They know there's right and wrong, and they choose wrong because that's what they want to do. That's what makes them feel good. They don't care about other people. And that's unfortunate. It is a huge wake-up call. Amazing. Yep. So true. I often wondered why I didn't see it. Yeah. Because you didn't want to believe that. You wanted to believe in the good. We all did. And there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with wanting to believe in the good. It's just that now, to be more cautiously optimistic, instead of that fierce optimism, now your optimism is a little more cautious, and that's healthy. Now you have more boundaries. Hopefully you're working on your boundaries, and you're working on your perception, and you're working on trusting your feelings and your perception. And that is the huge part. Somewhere in that relationship, if not earlier in life, maybe you didn't come from a family like that. Maybe it was the tremendous loss that you went through, your husband, the job, all of that happened, that tremendous loss that set you up for this. Maybe it wasn't something that happened before, but now you know what people are capable of. Now you know that you have been open and vulnerable to that. Now you know more what to look out for. And even though that person made you doubt your feelings, when you said, this doesn't feel right at some point, I don't really like when you're doing that, something's not right. And they told you, no, they gaslighted you. That's not what it is. That's not what's happening. That's not what I'm doing. That's not what I said. And you learn to self-doubt, right? You learn to self-doubt yourself. And that's what you got to practice now, is to honor your feeling. When you get that feeling that something's not right, you listen to that. When you have a perception of reality, that's valid. That's your perception of reality. You need to listen to that. When someone else comes in and says, no, I'm not abusing you, there's nothing wrong with me doing that, your perception needs to have an alarm bell that goes off and says, don't listen to that person, trust yourself, right? So you definitely want to work on the self-trust, and honoring your feelings and honoring your perceptions of reality, and being cautiously optimistic with the world, not going out into the world and being like, oh, everybody's just bad and everybody's evil, and because it's not that way, but to be cautiously optimistic. I think that's key. Loving with limits and being cautiously optimistic. She says, it woke me up to the world, took off the rose-colored glasses. Yeah, it does. It does. And at some point, I know maybe it's not right now, but at some point, you'll realize there was even more in there. There was even more of a gift in there that you can extract and leave behind all the awful part of that experience. I truly believe that all of us can learn something really amazing, something that leads us more in the direction of our passions and our life purpose by going through that, by going through the fire, that transmutation of that horrible, difficult experience, coming out stronger, coming out wiser, coming out having learned something, that I know there's something in there. And it's hard to look at that at the beginning. You don't want to hear any of that, but down the road at some point, like it'll come to you, hopefully, like something that you learned, something beautiful you can extract from that. I have here, someone says, at my age, it seems that everyone is nestled into their cliques and deep into relationships. It's not easy to branch out and make friends, especially after all the BS. Yeah, it's true. Being an adult is not that different than being, like, if you were in high school and you had to like transfer high schools, maybe like your parents moved or something, you had to transfer high schools. It was really difficult to make new friends because everybody had cliques. I grew up in the Midwest, and in the Midwest there were definite cliques. I imagine it's similar in the rest of the country and probably the world, where the groups of people. And I imagine if you come in there as a newbie, like, how do you find your place, right? And that's just symbolic of life in general. As an adult, how do we find our place in the world, right? And I've moved cities many, many times, and it's always like that. You get to a new city, you don't know anybody, or maybe you know one person, or you kind of know a few people, and you just got to put yourself out there a little more. Now, of course, that's after the period of time of healing. After you get out of one of these relationships, you want to take at least 6 months. If it was a really long relationship, you might need a year, to like really work out a lot of this stuff before you're really putting yourself out there. Definitely before you're dating, at least 6 months, but you might find, like, in your city, there's like networking events or something. I go to these sometimes where you go and like a bunch of other people around town show up, and you kind of just go around the room and meet new people. And it really breaks you of social anxieties and fears, because everybody's in the same boat, and you just go up to a new person. Hey, how are you? Oh, great. What do you do? Oh, I do this. Oh, I do that. And you start striking up a conversation, and maybe there's not really a conversation. And so you move on. Maybe you find somebody you have a conversation with, and maybe you go to like many of these events until you meet like one person who might become like a good friend. Or maybe like, you're getting out and going to the coffee house and you're doing some work there, or you're reading or hanging out. And, maybe you go to the coffee house for months and months and you don't meet anybody. But then like this one day, somebody comes and you start having a conversation about something that you're both really into. Maybe you're like reading a book or a magazine and they see it and they're like, oh, you're into that. I'm into that. And you start talking. It is hard. It's definitely a challenge, but it's not impossible. you know, it's not impossible at all. And I would more recommend this organic meeting of people in person versus the online sort of meeting, because online, you don't know what you're getting. And that's like a perfect place for manipulative people to hang out. And it could put you in a dangerous and vulnerable situation. If you meet someone in person, you generally get a feeling within like the first 2 minutes that you're talking to that person, how you feel. You don't feel so good, maybe, so you move on. Or maybe you feel really good and you feel uplifted and like, you know, inspired or happy or excited or whatever. And then, you know, that's like a positive person. And it's also practice. And so like going to like these sorts of networking events where everybody is sort of in this pool and forced to just strike up conversations is excellent practice for trusting your intuition, you know? And so you're having this conversation and check in with yourself. How do I feel? How do I feel? Is there anything going on in my body? What is my body telling me? What is my mind telling me? You know, like, how am I feeling right now? What's going on? And starting to gauge that, and starting to gauge your perceptions of people, and trusting yourself, because you probably have a lot of self-doubt after one of these relationships. And, you know, and the other thing too is, you know, one, not to think and expect that everyone is going to be like your ex, you know, and all of that bullshit. Yeah, there's plenty of people out there. And if you already have narcissists in your life, chances are you're always going to be meeting more of them. It doesn't mean everybody you meet is going to be like that, but it definitely means that it's going to be around, and you're always going to want to be aware of that. And not expecting one thing or another. Just show up like a blank slate, like an open perception. You know, I think like when a baby comes into this world, like too often parents are like, okay, we're going to make this child like everything we want it to be, versus like, so who are you? You know, who do you want to be? Right. And that open perception, that blank slate, this new person comes into your life, blank slate, no judgment, right? And check in with yourself and check in with your feelers. Does this feel good? Does it feel like a healthy interaction? Even if it's just like a platonic friend or a networking person or something, you know, versus like, I got a weird feeling in my gut right now. This doesn't feel so good. Or like my eyes are falling closed. Like I'm like exhausted. I can really keep them open. Or, you know, I go home after and I feel like crap. Those are all signs it's not a good person to hang out with. It's like some sort of toxic energy there. So it's really good to check in with yourself. Hold on, let me catch up here. The statistics are 1 in 7 are narcissistic, 1 in 25 are psychopaths. Scary. Yeah, it is scary. It's really scary. And the scariest part is that if you've already attracted, there's some people who have no idea what this is because they've never been around this. They've never been around these people. Lucky them, right? But if you have been around these people, you have to recognize that it is possible that they show up in your life again in various forms, and to always be cautiously optimistic when you meet people. Again, it doesn't mean everyone's going to be like that, but there will be some people like that. And the more that you heal yourself, the more that, you know, you trust yourself, you trust your feelings, you trust your perceptions of reality, the quicker you're going to realize, you know, you're going to realize by the second date, maybe the first, that you don't want to see that person again, you know, or you're going to maybe be invited to some new social context, social group. And, you know, maybe by the second time you're hanging out, you're like, yeah, I'm not really feeling it. Trust yourself. And then this really is a process of that self-trust, you know, and knowing who can you trust and what's a good situation for you and what's not. And the more you heal yourself and the more you trust yourself, the more healthier people are going to come into your life. And the more like all of that is going to start to fade away. And yeah, they'll show up, they'll keep showing up to test you, but you'll see it a lot quicker. You'll be like, no, something's not right. No, thank you. And it's a lot easier to kind of like bow out when you've just met this person versus someone who's gets their claws in deep, you know, hangs around for a while. So being able to recognize that, the sooner the better, you know, and that again comes back to the self-trust. Are those stats related to men only or people in general? I think that's people in general. I think that some of the stats are different. I think different different groups have different stats, different research, studies have different stats. Sandra L. Brown is the one that has really excellent information on psychopaths. She's worked with thousands of victims of psychopaths. I would look her up. She mentions, I think she says 1 in 25 is psychopaths. So there's different stats, but basically, they say that the psychopaths, like what they call the antisocial personality disorder, and the NPD, the narcissistic personality disorder, tend to be more men. The women tend to be more the borderline personality disorder and the histrionic. And most of the toxic women that I've met tend to be more toward the BPD sorts of characteristics. So, less men, more women, but I've also met a few men who were borderline. So, I think at the end, it probably balances out. I've met so many people who are in these abusive relationships with men and women. I think that we hear a lot more about the abuser who's the male, because I think it's a lot easier for a woman. It's hard for any of us to say, I'm being abused, right? To admit it to ourselves. It's so much harder for a man to admit that than a woman, because in society we have, these ideas of like, what is a man? And like, wow, like if you're a man and you admit you're being abused, then are you a man? And there's all this like societal programming. And I think that's why it's so difficult for men to step up and say that they're being abused by a very toxic woman, and to recognize, even in themselves, that they're being abused. And I saw a video, I think I posted it a couple months ago on my Facebook page, that the suicide rates of married men are like significantly higher than the suicide rates of married women. And I think that's probably because like the women are more able to realize that they're being abused and get out. And then we have all these societal programs in place for women, like domestic violence shelters and stuff. But what do we have for the men? Like what societal programs do we have for the men? Like none, if any, at all. And so, how much harder is it for the man to get out, for the man to recognize what's going on and to get help? And, even family court systems are often skewed towards the woman, and the man, in order to get full custody from a very toxic, manipulative woman, like it's like almost like you have to prove like she's a crack addict to get full custody. I've heard a lot of men going through really difficult custody battles. So it's like we need to open this dialogue more in society so that we start talking about it, so we aren't as ashamed, like not just victims of abuse in general, but like especially for the men to be able to stand up and say, this is happening to me at the hands of a woman. This woman is abusing me. This woman is abusing my kids. This is not a healthy situation. And I need help. I need societal programs in place. I need, some sort of outside support for this. And it's tragic that that's not the case. But I think the more that we talk about it, the more we open this dialogue, the more we're going to be able to make these changes and bring that awareness. Let's see, what did I miss here? Okay, just getting to the place I am now after overcoming this, that I am stronger than I ever knew, and to practice more self-love of me. Good. That's really excellent. You are stronger now. You are definitely stronger. You have been through the fire of transmutation. You are definitely stronger. Excellent. Okay, I agree. I'm really just blown away with this new relationship I'm having with myself. Excellent. Me too. I just need a safe place to be me. Yeah. Once you develop that new relationship with yourself, it's really incredible. Like it's all like once you get to this place where you look back and like you don't even recognize who you were in that relationship, or who you were in that relationship 6 months ago, a year ago, 3 years ago. And it's unbelievable, and you realize like, wow, I really lost myself. Like I lost all of my sense of self. My identity was eroded away. And thank God, not anymore. I'm out of that, or at least like I'm already working my way out, and I'm working on myself, and I'm getting to the point where I have that self-esteem again, because that's always a sign that someone has been, a victim of abuse and bullying, is their self-esteem is just like plummeted and low. And I'm sorry, there's a question that says, isn't that kind of narcissistic? Is what narcissistic? Is what narcissistic? To look back at yourself? Is that what you're referring to? Being self-centered. I think probably you haven't been self-centered enough, right? Like most of us who got into these relationships with narcissistic tendency people, that didn't make any sense. With people who have narcissistic tendencies, we tend to have put the other person first way too much and not focused on the self enough. And to the vast majority of people, most people are more self-centered, and this isn't for everybody here, but for those of us who have been in these relationships, and that includes you've been in this relationship, you've probably put that person or their perceptions of reality or their feelings or their needs ahead of you, without focusing on yourself. It's so true. Yeah, it is, and that's the thing, like you have to have a balance in life of the selfish and the selfless. There has to be a balance, because if you are too selfless, you are a martyr. You're living for everybody else and you're not living for yourself. If you are too selfish, then you're a narcissist probably, and you're all about you and you're not concerned about everybody else. And you have to have a balance, because first and foremost, you got to take care of you. You got to be there for you. You got to take care of your needs, number one, because if you don't take care of you first, you can't take care of someone else. You can't help someone else. You can't bring you to the table in any kind of interaction if you haven't taken care of yourself. And if you're not taking care of yourself, then you're more likely to look to another person to take care of you. And that's dangerous, because one, it's not their responsibility. Two, you're going to open yourself up to another abusive person who's going to be like, oh, they need me. I know just what to do, and then they're going to give you what you need, and then they're going to have you, and you're going to be leaning into them, and then you're going to fall as soon as they take a step away. So you do need to focus more on you. Like you have to come first. And it's really hard for those of us who have always been taught since childhood, maybe you were maybe you were a child of some sort of abusive parent, toxic relationship with a parent who taught you that you always had to take care of them first, that your feelings, needs, thoughts, perceptions of reality weren't nearly as important as theirs. And you always had to put yourself aside and put them first. And you were taught to have guilt and shame for saying, these are my needs. These are my feelings. This is my perception of reality, and I have the right to have this. And if you were taught to feel guilt and shame, present day, you're probably feeling guilt and shame every time you have to express a boundary, every time you want to express an emotional need, and then if you're with the narcissistic person, they're going to tell you exactly that. Oh, it's all about you. It's all about you, isn't it? When it's like this one thing, it's like you're always there for them. And then you ask for one thing and they're telling you, oh, it's always about you. Well, it's not just about you, and they're trying to make you feel ashamed or guilty for having that need, for wanting to talk about that thing that they did or that thing that happened, or just something unrelated, something that happened to you during your day at work and you really want to talk to someone about it, and they're there and they're your partner and they're not interested in you. Like they're totally just zoned out, not paying attention, and you're upset, and then they're going to shame you, so be careful about that. It's not narcissistic to be centered in yourself, because if you are not centered, then you are off balance. If you are too focused on other people, you are out of your center. You're not balanced within yourself. If you are imbalanced and uncentered, you're going to be swayed to different people who come in, to their needs, to their feelings, to their wants, their whims, their desires, their perceptions of reality. So, you got to get real with yourself and recognize that you got to meet your needs first. You got to meet your needs in order to show up and offer the best of you to other people in interpersonal relationships. I'm working with that now. It's kind of nice. I take myself out on dates. That's an awesome idea. That's a really awesome idea. I love that. Going to the movies, going out to eat, going and doing what you love. Doing what you love, making the decisions that you want to make. That's really awesome. Really happy to hear that. Yeah, that's you making you a priority, right? That's you sending the message to yourself that you're taking care of yourself, that you're making yourself a priority. That's really excellent. Let me just make sure I didn't miss anything here. Okay. Any other questions? If you've got a question, let me know when it's coming, so I wait for you. If not, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up because we're a little after 7:25 here. Okay, if there's no other questions coming, I'm going to wrap it up. I am going to post these on, you're welcome. I'm going to post these on YouTube. I'm going to edit out all the pauses and stuff in the videos, and I'll create little videos for these on YouTube if you ever want to go back and listen to them later. Thank you so much for showing up. I'm sending you all a big hug. See you guys soon.